Today, I'll be talking about making your sensitivity and controls just right. Now, I will not be sharing my exact settings and sensitivity because what works for me might not work for you. It's like finding the comfy spot on your couch. It's personal. And let's be real, aim assist, it's trash and totally not my vibe. But that's just me. So, I'm here to help you figure out your sweet spot. No complicated stuff, just simple steps to get your controls feeling perfect. Let's dive in and make it yours. Alright, let's tackle sensitivity first. But here's the deal. Achieving good aim is a step-by-step process. We're talking good posture, sensitivity tweaks, breathing control, a ton of practice, and yeah, no rushing shots. Oh, and did I mention crosshair placement? I'm going to zip through these explanations because a guide without the why is like a game without fun. First, let's talk about your gaming posture. Sit comfortably, feet on the ground, back straight. That's the base for your gaming journey. Now, for those that lie down to play, especially gyroscope users, think about lying down and complaining your aim's off. Not a good move. Gyroscope needs stability and space. So sitting up straight is like gearing up for success. No noob aim, just hitting those targets like a boss. Take it easy, but take it seriously. Your aim is about to level up. All right, let's dive into breathing control. Now guys, I won't sugarcoat it. This is probably the difficult part. Ever been in a situation where your teammates are down and it's all on you? Or like in this clip, hearing footsteps behind you but still coming out on top? This is all about staying cool under pressure. I get it. Your hands might go cold and your aim gets shaky. Play in a room with a comfy temperature or throw on gaming gloves to keep those hands warm. The key here is conquering that panic moment. Once you master this, you'll come out on top in at least 80% of those intense situations. Let's hit the tons of practice phase. Don't dive straight into ranked BR or you'll end up frustrated. Start with hot zone or squad fights, play 3-5 matches, and only step into BR ranked when you've snagged that MVP title with solid kills. And here's a nugget of wisdom. If you hit a losing streak, take a break. Touch some grass, reset, and embrace the fact that we all have our noob moments. It's all part of the journey. All right, now let's talk don't rush shots. As you can see here, I took my time to get my aim just right before firing. The reason? In the sensitivity settings, there are two types: firing sensitivity and camera sensitivity. And camera sensitivity numbers are usually higher than firing. So if you start shooting when your aim is not on the person, it's harder to pull it back on track. All right, let me break it down. When you're tracking the enemy, you're moving your aim freely. That's the camera sensitivity. Now, when you decide to start shooting, your body automatically remembers how much force you use for swiping or moving the screen. This is called muscle memory. After spending about a week with a new sensitivity or HUD, muscle memory becomes active. But here's the stuff. When you start shooting, this muscle memory will understand that you need more control while firing and force you to automatically swipe or rotate your screen the normal way you do. Therefore, if your aim is not already on the enemy, it'll be hard for you to follow the enemy when you start shooting. So, my advice, don't rush shots. Calma and aim properly before shooting. Final piece before we jump into building your sensitivity, we have crosshair placement. For those unfamiliar with what a crosshair is, this is your crosshair while standing, and this is it while sprinting. Now always imagine an enemy in front of you. Why? It ensures your crosshair is at head or at least chest level. Never aim lower. When on the move, keep your crosshair at this height so you can easily fire if immediately rushed on. I know many of you are used to looking down in order to search for loot. Big disadvantage. Facing down means you might miss enemies when they pop out of nowhere on you, and you will take longer to move your aim at them. Place that crosshair up for a tactical advantage. All right, guys, let's move on to the moment we've all been waiting for. Building your perfect sensitivity. Okay, when you're in the training ground, take off all attachments from your gun except the scope, because that's what we're adjusting. This puts your gun in its basic recoil state. I've kept my sensitivity on default so I can guide you through everything without missing any steps. Let's get started. Let's dive into sensitivity settings. We've got two key areas, sensitivity switching and sensitivity acceleration mode. In sensitivity switching, there are three options: switch on ADS, switch after ADS, and switch gradually on ADS. Each impacts how your sensitivity changes when aiming down sights. Now I'll explain each. For the first option, it adjusts your camera rotation sensitivity the moment you tap your ADS button. Second option changes the sensitivity only when the scope is fully open. And lastly, this one makes the sensitivity adapt after fully opening the scope, with a slight delay. Personally, I don't recommend using the last one. Why set a sensitivity and deal with a delay? Now, on to sensitivity acceleration mode. With fixed speed, your swipe speed remains constant. Advisable for two-finger users. On the other hand, with distance boost, it gradually increases the more you swipe or rotate your screen. In my opinion, distance boost is the go-to for shooting moving cars, tracking fast-moving enemies, and controlling heavy gun recoil without breaking a sweat. Now guys, let's start with no ADS steering. Place your finger in the middle of the screen and pull from that point to the end, ensuring that the rotation covers exactly 360 degrees and brings you back to the starting point. As you can see, I didn't reach the starting point with the default setting, so I'll increase it by 20 just to test it out. Let's give it another shot. Checking it out, this time I passed the starting point, but not by much. Let's fine-tune and reduce it by 5. Now, as you can see, I've got it perfectly on the spot, so I'll be leaving it at 95. Alright, next up, we'll dive into the camera sensitivity for scopes. I'll use iron sight and 4X as examples, but keep in mind it's still applicable for all scopes. To find the ideal camera sensitivity for each scope, use a sniper. It helps you see how accurate your aim tracking is. You'll see what I mean now. At first, track the bots one by one. Check your sensitivity. If it's too low and you're not reaching the bots, increase it. If you're passing them, reduce it. Make sure your aim is directly on the bot each time you target them. For now, I'm satisfied with my camera sensitivity. But let's try hitting the target each time I move on to each of them because that's what really matters.
Reloading. A second.
I missed my target here because I passed the bot a little. So, I'll reduce it by 3 since it was just by a little. But as a standard, I usually reduce or increase my sensitivity by 5 if I'm not comfortable with it at all. As you can see, guys, that was perfection. So I'll leave it at 27. Alright, guys, now with the 4X scope. As you can see, with my sensitivity on default, it's harder to track accurately with the big scope. I'll reduce it by 10 because the shake was way too much. Setting it at 20 looked reasonable while tracking, but when I started shooting, there was still a little shake just before I fired. So, I reduced it by 3. Setting it at 17 looked perfect, but my aim felt a bit sluggish. After tuning it down by 3, I knew that the sweet spot will be between 17 and 20. So, I bumped it up by 1 to 18. 18 looked okay, but I still felt something was missing. So I thought, why not add one more to make it 19? And boom, 19 was the right number for the job, even though I missed the last target. It felt good and easy in my hand. For those who stuck around till now, here's a secret. From 3X to 8X scopes, I use aim spamming. Instead of traditional tracking, I open and close the scope quickly for each enemy. It works well for scopes from 3X and above, and even the 2X. Give it a try. I also use it strongly for close-range scenarios, just like here. When I heard the second enemy's footsteps, I didn't rotate my screen while my scope was open to this enemy. Instead, I moved from my initial position because I knew he'd want to shoot me. Then I reopened my aim again. Alright guys, that's all for camera rotation. Later in the video, I'll showcase the complete camera rotation sensitivity. For now, let's fix your firing sensitivity. To set your scopes, find a gun with the lowest recoil control. As you can see on the screen, it's the SCAR with a recoil control of 13. That's what you'll use to train your aim. With the default sensitivity, as you can see, when I fired, I was able to control the recoil at the beginning. But that's not what I want. I aim to control the recoil for the entire duration. So, since I've noticed that the recoil pattern is going way too up, I'm going to increase the sensitivity by 10. After increasing it by 10 and shooting again, as you can see, this is the closest target in the training ground. And the bullet spread is not meant to be as wide as that. It's actually supposed to be very slim and in the middle. So, I noticed that the gun is probably bouncing left and right, which means I'm going to reduce the sensitivity by 3. Let's try that out. Now, at this point, the bullet spread is not as wide as the previous one. But as you can see, the gun was still bouncing from left to right. I still need to test it on the second target. When I went over to the second target and tried it there, I found out that there was still a little bit of horizontal bullet spread. So, I'm going to reduce the sensitivity by 3. Now, after reducing it by 3 again, I've found out that the recoil is now controlled at the center of the second target, which is even further than the first one. This is very good for us. Now that I've set that, I'll start the target practice with the range challenge. Now, if you remember clearly, I said I was going to be testing for both the iron sight and the 4X scopes. So you see that the same procedure works for all the scopes. So, onto the 4X scope. Now yes, of course, you're still going to use the SCAR with 4X scope, and if you try to escape from using this gun, if you try to say, I will go use M4, you're actually harming yourself because this gun has the lowest recoil control, which is literally 13 in the game. If you try to use any other gun, you're just deceiving yourself, I'm going to be honest with you. So what you need to do is use SCAR and try your best to find your sensitivity with SCAR. Anyway, I tried with the first target, and as long as from scopes 3X to 6X, the bullet spread can stay in this circle, then honestly, you're good to go. And as I used the 4X, I found out that the default was actually very good for me, which was 30. I'm gonna leave my 4X scope on 30. As you can see, with the second target, I maintained recoil control at 30 sensitivity, keeping it within the circle. Since it fits my 4X scope, I'll stick with 30 without further adjustments. Moving on, let's test this sensitivity in the range challenge to see how well it performs navigating through enemies. The reason I pause while shooting is because my gyroscope control has limits. Think of it like tilting your phone. The more you tilt, the closer you get to the end. In a regular game, I wouldn't keep my scope open for so long, so no need for continuously resetting. But here I have to reset periodically due to prolonged scope use. Here's a summary of everything. 1. Choose your preferred sensitivity preset, low, medium, or high. 2. Camera sensitivity. Reduce by 5 if passing target. Reduce by 10 if overly passing target. Increase by 5 if falling slightly short. Increase by 10 if you're not even close at all. Fine-tune with 3 for precision. 3. Firing sensitivity. Increase by 5 if recoil rises. Increase by 10 for uncontrollable recoil. Decrease by 10 if experiencing significant horizontal bounce. Adjust by 5 if uncomfortable with minor bounce. Fine-tune with 3 for precision after 5 or 10 adjustments. All right, that's it for today. After finalizing the sensitivity adjustments, here's the end result. Just to clarify, I'm strictly a gyroscope player, so these settings are geared toward that. Unfortunately, my non-gyroscope settings are exclusive to my members, providing them with a bit of special treatment. To access those exclusive settings, consider joining the membership by tapping on the link in the pinned comment or using the join button. But don't worry, you've got this guide to help you find your perfect sensitivity. Give it a shot, and if you have questions, feel free to ask. Happy gaming, and thanks for watching.